Today I have another Run Disney video for you. Today we're going to be talking about fueling your nutrition, your hydration, getting your snacks and your meal planning right for the perfect Run Disney training season. Hello, I'm Dr. Sam. Welcome back to my channel. It's the Pixie Packing Travel Company. I cover a variety of things on my Instagram and now on my YouTube channel, but the most recent series has been Run Disney. So I'm going to continue with that. I'm a family physician, functional medicine doctor, registered dietitian, done a lot of sports nutrition, done a lot of working with athletes and those who just exercise and work out a lot. So we do that a lot in my practice. And I'm a runner myself. So today I wanted to talk about nutrition because I do believe that it is so important to your training. And in particular for Run Disney, you're spending a lot of money when you do run a Run Disney race. You really want it to be that magical race that you've been dreaming about. And a lot of people, it's their first dive into a race. So you want to prepare even more when it's the first time. You want to make sure your training season is really the best that it can be, and then they can really understand what it's like to be in a race and be at your best when you're doing that, especially when you're at Disney. So first, I want to talk a little bit about fueling your runs. Running requires energy, obviously, just like any exercise does. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. It'll help the channel grow. It's still a new channel. And please like this, and that helps the channel grow. And share it if you feel like anybody would benefit from it that you know. So running requires energy, and energy comes in the form of calories. And calories comes in the form of protein, fats, and carbs. Now, we may have heard, if we're new to running, or maybe this is what we've been doing already when we've been running, that you need to carb load. Well, yes, maybe before a race that might be a good approach for you, but during training season, you don't necessarily need to carb load. In fact, I'm going to say a little bit of the opposite in that I think you should cut back on the carbs. I know, sounds crazy, but I think during the beginning of your training season and when you first start doing your lower miles, and whether you're doing a 5K, 10K, half marathon, or full marathon, those are all in the Disney realm as far as Run Disney goes, so it could be any of those that you're doing. I want you in the first couple weeks when you first start doing your miles to cut back on carbs, and that means to try to take out breads and pastas and crackers and cookies, of course, and cakes and those more processed candy, cakes, cookies. I want you to leave those out if you can. But the other things I would like you to take out and just focus on proteins, fats, and then like fruits or vegetables as your carbs. Just for a couple weeks to see how your body feels, because you got to get past that carb craving cycle. And then in 2 weeks, you add back in your favorite out of whatever you've cut out, and you take it slow. You add it in one time, one meal, and you see how you feel. If your body feels like it's back on a blood sugar roller coaster, then you probably want to keep those processed carbs out. Everybody's different with the way they respond to processed carbs. But I just want to kind of get across the idea that we don't always need to carb load or have a high carb diet in order to be an athlete. Plenty of athletes out there are basically low carb in general. So it can be done, and these are endurance athletes, but you have to find what's right for you. So that's why I'm just saying a 2-week test, and then you add in and see how you feel. If you feel great on it and then your body has missed it and it feels really nourished with that carb being added back in, then please include that. Just try to make sure it's a high fiber, lower sugar carb. So with protein, you need that for muscle repair and recovery. And what are proteins? Eggs and meats and chicken, turkey, even dairy has protein, nuts and seeds if you're a vegetarian, or if you're not a vegetarian, you still should have nuts and seeds, beans, tofu. Those are all good sources of protein. So try to make sure you're getting enough protein with every meal. If you want to learn more about how to structure a meal plan, I have some meal plans I've prepared that I've worked with the athletes in my practice, and even the people in training that aren't necessarily considering themselves athletes. I have some of those meal plans, and you can do a monthly meal plan subscription through me, and I will link that down below. So some great ways to make sure you're getting protein, fat, and carbs. And fat is in the form of like avocados, Sometimes meat and dairy have fat in them, but we want to keep that animal fat lower. Nuts and seeds have a good healthy fat. Olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, those are very healthy fats. Olives, those can all be combined with protein and fat to have a very balanced meal. We call it PFC eating, protein, fat, carbs. So don't eat your carbs by themselves because they may spike that sugar too much. So we want to combine them with fat and carbs and have a PFC meal. So what are some examples of that? Be like for breakfast, for example, be oatmeal with some nuts and fruits on top of it. Make your own kind of blend like that. Some Greek full fat yogurt. I like the full fat yogurts, not the low fat, with some nuts and seeds and fruit on top. You could also do a really like sprouted bread, like a very healthy bread, with nut butter of some sort and some honey and a banana or some berries with that. So that's a good way to get all your protein, fat, and carbs together. And you want to make sure you're doing that so that your blood sugar stays stable and you're able to exercise with a stable blood sugar. You're not having the spikes and crashes. And then you also want to make sure that you're hydrating. So how do you know when you have enough hydration? Well, you want to listen to your body. When you're thirsty you've probably already taken it too far. So you want to kind of drink before you're thirsty. So with a lot of these longer runs, even getting into the 10K, sometimes even the 5K, if people walk it, you're going to be out exercising for an hour or longer on your longer or shorter for if you're doing a half or full marathon. But anyway, if you're out over an hour, you want to make sure that you're drinking like anywhere between 18 and 24 ounces. So pack that in your like packs. I will put in the description some of the waist bags that I like that have bottle carriers on them. Make sure you're bringing 18 to 24 ounces per hour that you're going to be out running. So if you're going to be out less than an hour, you may not need to do that if you drink that 18 to 24 ounces before you go. But if you're going to be out longer than an hour, make sure you're packing 18 to 24 ounces per hour. And if you're going to be out longer than an hour, make sure you have some kind of electrolytes. If you're sweating a lot and it's a warm season, particularly if you're training anywhere near any of the Disney races, because you'd be training in California or Florida, it's going to be hot there. So any of those places geographically close to there, you're going to be hot. I live in Colorado, but plenty of months out of the year, we also have to think about electrolytes because the sun is so strong and we are out sweating. So if you're out longer than 60 minutes, make sure you pack some electrolytes. You could mix something ahead of time in one of your little water bottles that you carry with your pack, like an IV nutrition, the packs that I've showed you before in some of the shorts on this video. If you haven't seen those, you can check that out. They're really easy to watch. They're less than 60 seconds. Or Noom, or there's plenty of other options. Those are just the two that I find the best for me and the most portable. I don't really like Gatorade. I'm a Gator, University of Florida. It was created at the University of Florida, but it has taken a turn and become very processed and lots of fake colors and all that. And you don't need that. You can use some of these others that are more natural, or any kind of natural electrolyte powder. So just make sure you're thinking ahead, you're planning ahead with how much water and fluids you need to pack with you, and you're packing those electrolytes that you would lose in your sweat, and that you're avoiding excess caffeine and alcohol on your training days. In general, you should avoid excess caffeine and alcohol, but particularly on a training day, because that's going to dehydrate you even more. So what do I mean when I say excess? Well, you should probably keep your caffeine to 16 ounces or less of coffee. If it's green tea or something that's less caffeine, you could have a little bit more, but 2 servings or less per day is good. And then alcohol, it's best to keep your alcohol to really a minimum in general. We're finding out how much alcohol serves as like a toxin in the body often. I mean, a drink for a special occasion or a trip or, a birthday, yes, but try not to have that as a regular occurrence throughout the week, especially on your training days. Plan your race day nutrition. So just like these training days and training season where you're going to be eating PFC, protein, fat, and carbs together, you do want to do that in the day before your race. Now I'm going to have a whole video dedicated to race day, particularly Run Disney race day, so you can get some ideas on where to eat and what to eat. But you don't want your race day nutrition to be much different than your regular, especially your pre-race day, like the day before the race. You don't want it to be, different. So make sure it's a PFC kind of meal. It's not too high in carbs. It's not too high in fat. You're not eating a ton of sugar or desserts that day. Save that for maybe after the race, so that your body's not exposed to something new that it hasn't been used to during the training season. That morning of the race, having something simple like any of those PFC breakfasts I talked about, like, oatmeal with some nuts and seeds, or Greek yogurt with some berries and honey, or the nut butter toast with fruit would be a nice simple thing. You could have, I like the Go macro bars. I'll put a link to those down below in the description. They're very simple, and they have the protein, fat, and carbs in there that you might need. So a protein bar could be an easy thing. I get pretty nervous before runs, or kind of excited, nervous. So I like to have something simple like the Go macro bars. So you could pack those, and then if you're going to be like doing the half marathon or the full marathon, the 5K and 10K, you might not need a snack or anything with you, but make sure you're packing something that's portable. You could use one of those energy bars like the Go Macro, or some of the energy chews or gels that I've talked about before, and I'll link some of my favorites in the description down below. You could pack those as well. They do have is it vitamin water, I think, during the Run Disney races? I can't remember. I know I stop and get it, but I don't remember what it is. So they do have that, and they have water, of course, but if you want a snack while you're running, they'll have a good pack for you after. Make sure you put something in your little bag. And then listening to your body. So you're going to want to listen to your body race day, of course, but ahead of time. If you're feeling like I was saying, if you cut the carbs out and you add them back in one at a time, one type at a time, and you find that any of them don't sit well, they cause you to feel sluggish or drowsy, then take that one out. Maybe too low in fiber and too high in sugar. A side note here for planning that, I like people to read their labels and make sure they have 1 gram of fiber for every 10 grams of carbs. So turn that, I'll put a nutrition label up here. Read it, make sure you have 1 gram of fiber for every 10 grams of carbs. That's a less processed carb or a higher density carb. So listen to your body. If you start adding in some lower fiber carbs, and you feel sluggish, you feel tired, then keep that out and try to stick with meals and snacks that make you feel nourished. And again, don't try anything new in the day before or the day, or just before the race. So hopefully that was helpful. If you're interested in any of those meal plans, please check out the description down below. You can just click the link. If you have any trouble with it, please let me know. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And if you have any ideas for future topics, they don't have to just be Run Disney. I cover other, gluten-free Disney, vegetarian at Disney, some Disney resorts, the best resorts to stay at when you're there on a Run Disney vacation or on a family vacation. I am a travel agent with Disney as well as the doctor. So any of those travel-related questions, please let me know. And thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. And let's run Disney.